Before his death, Anissa Jones's brother finally breaks silence. Leaving the world, shocked, Anissa Jones was born, Mary Anissa Jones, on March 11, 1958, in West Lafayette, Indiana, a quiet Midwestern town known primarily as the home of Purdue University. Her early childhood was spent in Charleston, West Virginia, a city nestled in the Appalachian region, rich in culture and natural beauty. She remained in Charleston until the age of 5, an impressionable time that would be her last years living in a traditional, intact family environment before her life changed significantly. Anissa's maternal heritage played an important role in shaping her identity. Her grandparents on her mother's side were Lebanese immigrants, bringing with them the customs, traditions, and language of Lebanon's Maronite Christian community. Her unique middle name, Anissa, was commonly used among Lebanese Maronites as a cultural alternative to Agnes. Rather than stemming from Latin or Greek origins, it traces its linguistic roots back to the Persian name Anahid, also known as Anahit or Anais, which means immaculate or pure, a name that carries strong connotations of spiritual beauty and innocence. This name, infused with a blend of Middle Eastern and religious significance, reflected the pride Anissa's family had in their heritage and would stand out as distinctive during her later public life. Her family background was academic and promising. At the time of Anissa's birth, her father, John Paul Jones, was a well-educated man with a degree in engineering and a faculty position at Purdue University. He was involved in shaping the minds of young engineering students and was respected in his field. Meanwhile, her mother, Mary Paula Jones, née Tweel, was pursuing a degree in zoology, reflecting a shared intellectual environment in their home. Mary Paula also carried the Lebanese ancestry through the Tweel family, a surname that remains prominent among Lebanese American communities. Their marriage, however, would not last long. By the early 1960s, tensions grew in the household, and the couple divorced just before Anissa's acting career began in earnest. This separation had a lasting impact on Anissa, who, even as a child, bore the emotional weight of a family split just as she was beginning to find herself in the spotlight. In 1960, Anissa became a big sister with the birth of her brother, John Paul Jones, Jr., who was affectionately called Paul by the family. Their relationship was close and would later prove to be one of the few constants in Anissa's often turbulent life. Not long after Paul's birth, the family relocated to Playa del Rey, a beachside community in the Los Angeles area. The move from the Midwest to Southern California signified a significant change in their lifestyle and surroundings, placing the young Jones family in the heart of the growing aerospace and entertainment industries. Anissa's father, now employed in aerospace engineering, a field booming during the height of the Cold War and space race, found work in the fast-growing Southern California tech corridor. Anissa began attending Paseo del Rey Elementary School, a modest public school near the Pacific Ocean, where she began to show early signs of creativity and charm. Later, she enrolled in Orville Wright Junior High School, a transition that coincided with the most transformative years of her young life. Anissa's introduction to the world of television came at the tender age of 6 in 1964. Her first appearance was in a television commercial, a common entry point for many child actors during that era. These brief but demanding roles required charm, poise, and the ability to follow direction, qualities Anissa possessed in abundance. Her petite size and youthful features made her a natural fit for younger roles, and casting agents took notice. By 1966, only 2 years after her commercial debut, Anissa, though 8 years old, was still small for her age and convincingly portrayed a 6-year-old girl in what would become her most iconic role, Ava Elizabeth Buffy Patterson-Davis, on CBS's heartwarming sitcom Family Affair. The show would change her life forever. Family Affair premiered in 1966 and quickly became a cultural sensation. In the show, Buffy and her twin brother Jody, played by Johnny Whitaker, and their teenage sister Sissy, played by Kathy Garver, are suddenly orphaned when their parents die in a tragic car accident. With no other close relatives available, the three children are taken in by their sophisticated and somewhat reluctant bachelor uncle, Bill Davis, portrayed by actor Brian Keith. Uncle Bill is aided in raising the children by his traditional English valet, Mr. French, played by Sebastian Cabot. The emotional dynamic of a grieving yet loving family unit trying to adjust to their new life tugged at the heartstrings of viewers. Anissa's portrayal of Buffy, with her wide-eyed innocence and signature pigtailed look, quickly endeared her to audiences. Her character's bond with her twin brother Jody, whom she affectionately called Jody Wuddy, became one of the show's most beloved elements. During the late 1960s, as Family Affair reached the peak of its popularity, Anissa Jones became one of America's most recognizable child stars. Her image adorned fan magazines and lunchboxes, and she was frequently invited to public appearances and interviews. In 1969, at the height of her fame and just 11 years old, Anissa made her one and only film appearance in The Trouble with Girls, a musical drama starring Elvis Presley. Though her role was small, it marked a milestone in her career as she stepped onto the big screen alongside one of the most legendary performers in entertainment history. That same year, she also made a memorable crossover appearance as Buffy on the short-lived sitcom To Rome with Love, starring John Forsythe, a testament to how strongly the Buffy character had resonated with audiences and network executives alike. Despite her enormous popularity, Anissa's career in television and film was remarkably brief. Family Affair ended in 1971, when she was just 12 years old. By that time, Jones had already spent nearly half her life in the public eye. Following the series' conclusion, she made the conscious and ultimately permanent decision to step away from acting. Unlike some child stars who transitioned into teen or adult roles, Anissa never returned to film or television work. The abrupt end to her acting career was the result of multiple factors, including industry typecasting, the personal and emotional toll of early fame, and changes in her family life. Her departure from the screen left fans wondering what could have been, while Anissa herself struggled to redefine her identity outside of the role that had brought her fame. Though her time in the spotlight was short-lived, the impact of her performance as Buffy remains indelible in the annals of classic American television. For decades, the tragic life and untimely death of former child star Anissa Jones remained one of Hollywood's most unsettling and heartbreaking mysteries. Best known for her role as the lovable Buffy on the popular 1960s sitcom Family Affair, Anissa captured the hearts of millions with her wide-eyed innocence and infectious charm. But behind her sweet television persona was a young girl struggling silently with the crushing pressures of fame, a broken family life, and a system that abandoned her once the spotlight dimmed. Now, after years of speculation and unanswered questions, the full picture of what led to her shocking death at the age of 18 is coming into sharper focus, and what has been revealed is deeply disturbing. The circumstances surrounding Anissa's death in 1976 have long fueled speculation. Her sudden passing from a lethal combination of drugs raised countless questions. How could someone so young, so recently beloved by the public, spiral so quickly into such darkness? What went wrong in the years between Family Affair's cancellation and that final fateful day in a friend's home in Oceanside, California? And why did no one intervene? The answers, long buried beneath layers of family dysfunction, legal battles, and Hollywood indifference, are finally being unearthed, and they paint a picture of neglect, exploitation, and a young life left in ruins. A key revelation involves the way Anissa was managed, both on and off set, during her years in the spotlight. Like many child actors of her time, she was never afforded the protections or psychological support that such a high-stress, adult-centric environment demanded. When Family Affair ended in 1971, Anissa was only 13 years old. Overnight, her career dried up, and she faced the brutal realization that the industry no longer had a place for her. Casting directors didn't see her as a teenager. They still saw Buffy. Unfortunately, no one helped her navigate that painful transition. She was thrust back into normal life, but there was nothing normal about her circumstances. She didn't go to a regular school, she had no peer group to speak of, and she lacked adult mentors who cared about her well-being beyond the fame she once brought. Even more troubling was the fact that the money she had earned, money she was legally entitled to, was mishandled. Reports have shown that her trust fund, which should have been secured under the Coogan law to protect child actors, was either mismanaged or prematurely accessed. As Anissa's fame faded, she was left not just without purpose, but also without financial stability. Her parents, long estranged and locked in bitter disputes, were unable to provide the stable emotional foundation she needed. Her mother, struggling with her own demons, failed to recognize the signs of her daughter's emotional unraveling. Her father, while reportedly trying to help, had little legal control by that point. The people Anissa surrounded herself with in her later teenage years were not supportive friends, but rather enablers who introduced her to a darker lifestyle. She began hanging out with an older, more troubled crowd, people with access to hard drugs and few boundaries. She was desperately seeking escape, acceptance, and some sense of identity. Her final days were marked by increasingly reckless behavior, suggesting a young woman in free fall, trying to numb her pain in any way she could. On August 28, 1976, that spiral ended in tragedy when she was found dead of a massive drug overdose. The toxicology report revealed a deadly cocktail of barbiturates, cocaine, PCP, and quaaludes. The coroner described it as one of the most severe overdoses ever seen in San Diego County at the time. Even decades later, her death casts a long shadow, especially over the entertainment industry that so often elevates child stars only to discard them once their innocence fades. The Anissa Jones mystery, long thought to be merely about the cause of her death, now seems more like a cautionary tale about what happens when a young star is consumed by the very machine that made her famous. The true mystery was never just about how she died. It was about how so many people failed her while she was still alive. In recent years, interviews with family members, newly uncovered court documents, and first-hand testimonies from those who knew her have helped to reconstruct the tragic timeline of Anissa's downfall. Her brother, Paul Jones, who also struggled with drugs and died under suspicious circumstances just a few years after Anissa, once spoke publicly about the emotional scars left by their chaotic upbringing and Anissa's sudden fame. He claimed she felt deeply isolated, emotionally abandoned, and utterly unprepared for a life beyond the small screen. These testimonies help confirm that Anissa's death wasn't merely the result of a bad night. It was the culmination of years of trauma, loneliness, and neglect. For decades, the tragic story of child actress Anissa Jones remained shrouded in mystery, whispered about in Hollywood circles, and mourned by fans who remembered her as the sweet blonde-haired Buffy from the beloved sitcom Family Affair. But the full extent of her struggles, the pressures she faced behind the scenes, and the heartbreaking final days of her life remained largely unspoken, until her brother, Paul Jones, finally decided to reveal the truth. In one of his final public statements before his own untimely death in 1984, Paul opened up about the immense pain his family endured, lifting the veil on a harrowing story of lost innocence, exploitation, and neglect that stunned the world. Paul, who had remained silent for years out of a mixture of grief, fear, and emotional trauma, revealed intimate details of their lives before and after fame changed everything. According to Paul, the Jones family had never been prepared for the kind of attention and pressure that came with Anissa's meteoric rise to fame. At just 8 years old, Anissa became a household name, adored by millions. But behind the scenes, she was being pushed beyond her limits. Paul recounted how their mother, desperate to ensure Anissa's stardom, imposed strict discipline while ignoring the emotional toll it took on her daughter. He claimed that there was little to no parental protection from the industry's darker elements, and that Anissa was often isolated, overworked, and unable to enjoy the carefree childhood most kids take for granted. The public never knew the full extent of Anissa's suffering, Paul insisted. After Family Affair was canceled in 1971, Anissa struggled to find work and was left adrift in a world that had once adored her but now turned its back. Paul described her descent into depression and substance abuse, explaining that her sudden fall from stardom left her feeling worthless, used, and forgotten. She was only a child, he said solemnly, but the world treated her like a product to be consumed and discarded. He also revealed that Anissa had tried multiple times to seek help, but her pleas were ignored by her family, by the system, and by the very industry that had built her up. Perhaps most shocking of all was Paul's admission that on the night of Anissa's death in 1976, he had been with her just hours before she passed away from a massive drug overdose at only 18 years old. He described the haunting image of his sister, already frail and hollow-eyed, trying to laugh and pretend everything was fine as they shared a quiet evening together. He would later blame himself for not recognizing the severity of her condition, confessing that he had been too young, too confused, and too numb from his own trauma to see the warning signs. Paul's raw emotional revelations sparked a wave of renewed public interest in Anissa's story, not as a cautionary tale of a child star gone wrong, but as a tragic example of a vulnerable young girl chewed up by a heartless system. His words painted a picture of a loving, spirited, and sensitive girl whose life was stolen by fame, mishandled by those who should have protected her, and ultimately forgotten until it was too late. And just 2 years after he bared his soul to the world, Paul Jones himself died at the age of 24 from what many believe was a broken heart, leaving behind a legacy of truth that still echoes in the halls of Hollywood.